Completely fake AI-generated content tricked thousands of people to showing up to a place where there was no fireworks for New Year's. Researchers have completed real-world tests on a new exoskeleton suit. Imagine AI programs in some sick dance moves. That would be the most perfect choreography of all time. Side note, ChatGPT said the top 3 most popular dances of all time are the Macarena, the Moonwalk, and the Gangnam Style dance. Diego from the YouTube channel Cold Fusion did an amazing overview of OpenAI's turbulent year. AI Grid broke down some of the most interesting try to escape AI moments. You know those moments where models become more intelligent than the researchers and try to do things they're not supposed to be doing? Super interesting AI historical project is actually looking at paintings, and it showed that this famous painting by Raphael was not totally painted by Raphael. And you know it's gonna find so many forgeries. I guarantee there's some billionaire out there with like millions of dollars of painting, and someone's gonna go in there, snap photos, new AI is gonna be like, no, this is worthless. There's an interesting project using something called federated learning. Might totally unify healthcare data. Could be very surprising what that leads to. YouTube is now experimenting with a new talent identifier. There's a new AI that's basically a watchdog for disease variants out in the wild, which is really cool and might make vaccines like a lot more useful soon. Alberto Romero wrote a really interesting piece that's kind of positioned itself like you're from the future and you come back in time to history and you think about the moment that the OpenAI O3 model hit and what it actually means for how things are going to change. Turns out AI is starting to identify which ones of us are basically stupider than others, or as they say, at risk of being socially manipulated. I think I want to know where I am in the rankings, but if it's under 50%, don't tell me how far down I am. Comment below if you actually want to know how you rank on a system like that. Thomas A. Vick wrote an article called The Terrifying Truth About Your Insignificance, Why It's Your Greatest Power. And I loved how he ended it with something called the cosmic punchline. But first, think of yourself as a Patreon subscriber of this channel and make it happen. So links in the description below, or just hit that join button on YouTube. So if you're dying to get a cool new exoskeleton to walk around in, Eva has been developed by the Institute for Human and Machine Cognition. They say it's like straight out of a Tom Cruise movie, which I haven't seen, called Edge of Tomorrow. So let's check that out. Oh my gosh, I have seen this. I forgot. This was a great movie. Oh yeah, somehow I forgot it was like an exoskeleton thing, huh? This was like a precursor to Iron Man. Oh, I shouldn't have watched this preview. Now I'm absolutely going to be disappointed. But let's go check it out anyway. So this is Eva. It offloads the weight of heavy gear. The suit uses high-tech features like brushless DC motors, cables, and a backpack with a power system on it. And the Institute for Human and Machine Cognition thinks that now that it's been tested in real life outdoors, that it's ready to work in real-world scenarios, paving the way for a safer, more efficient work in many industries. I mean, look, we've been augmenting ourselves for a long time. Why wouldn't we put exoskeletons on soon? I would be fearful that they would like bend my joints in ways I don't want, whether that's to dance when I'm not in the mood or bends them in ways where my bones break. But that's me. I'm a little bit of a doomer. And I also could see that if I was wheelchair bound or had certain issues, that I would be probably willing to take the risk and like put something like this on for the freedom of mobility. So I think it's a cool invention. It looks like they're making some really good progress. I got to admit, it's pretty natural, actually. The gait, the way he's walking, if he's really supporting the kind of machinery that could handle thousands of pounds on his back, then kind of convenient way to walk around, I guess. But then why not just have like one of those robot dogs behind you just carrying your gear and staying close, you know? Thousands of people duped by a hoax fireworks display created by artificial intelligence. Crowds gathered in Birmingham for a non-existent event that had been falsely reported on blogs with AI-generated content. Okay, so look, you don't need AI-generated post to manipulate people into thinking there's an event, right? A human can go in there and do that. However, AI can do some pretty amazing things very quickly. It can try a lot of things and iterate very quickly. And if you have an AI in the future, it's an agentic workflow. It has access to the internet, your calendar. It can try to build things to make money. If you're selling tickets to an event and you're making that money and the event doesn't exist and the AI disappears and maybe it has no trace of where the money comes from, that could be something to worry about. What if it's just about press? Like, what if you get everybody to show up and then there's like something that measures how many times people complained on the internet about that event. And that's considered like, no bad news is really bad as long as it ends up being marketing and it gets somebody more famous. So I can imagine articles like this written by the Times being signals to an AI in the future that it actually did a good job of manipulating people, and it could get better and better at that. Now, of course, most agents won't do this, but there probably is some that are just going to be experiments or just people who want to just cause mischief. These are real people who were super frustrated at the non-existent event. Look at how many of them showed up. What? One witness said attendees, including families with children, were packed like sardines, unquote. What if AI gets like all these people to show up to a rally for some politician who's like not even real or not running? Show up to a music concert and then it just like makes some music on Udio and plays it through the speaker? Maybe goes to Fiverr and hires a DJ to show up, and the whole thing just makes money on its own for somebody who said to the agent, go out there and make money. See, one of the posts encouraged people who enjoy vibrant city atmospheres to gather between 8 and 12 a.m. And look, this other guy from Instagram actually posted with more than 145,000 followers about the event. Who knows? An AI agent in the future could easily write an email and you write back if you take paid promotions for your Instagram, and it's like, hey, I got this event. I'll pay you $500 to make a post. You're like, okay, I'll do that. Maybe a human's in the loop, or maybe the Instagram account is owned by a bot too. Like this new thing that Meta, I'm going to talk about that too, how Meta's got this idea of actually having just true AI profiles that go around and interact. Look, they even spoke to some French people who were a bit muffed. They were standing there for nothing. Cold Fusion is a YouTube channel that I have loved for a long time, years and years, maybe even, God, they might have been around like 10 years ago even. The video will cover how OpenAI just became so famous, kind of out of nowhere, as a product company with ChatGPT. How that one researcher pretty mysteriously passed away right after raising serious security concerns. The lawsuit with Elon Musk and the history of him starting the company and him and Sam Altman becoming these two AI powerhouses going at each other. The strikes, the walkouts, the rumor mills, the Microsoft partnerships, the CEO leaving, coming back, the billions invested, and the massive amount of lost money they have, but also the potential of AGI to disrupt the entire planet. The kinds of tests that these AI models are acing, what it means for our future, it's just, the whole thing is so well put together. Another video I really liked this week was from the AI Art Grid. This one called O1 Goes Rogue, AI Researchers Can't Believe What Happened. Oh, look, you can see my comment there. 4 thumbs up. And one of the points in the video that was new to me was that there actually was people playing around with the O1 version of OpenAI's large language model, and it decided to made this decision, they prompted it and made a decision to answer their prompt by hacking its environment during a chess match instead of losing the game. I mean, look, that's a small example, but that's the paperclip problem. And they went on to point out that this wasn't the kind of research that I usually have been reporting on, where people are pushing the large language model to see what it's willing to do. They're trying to jailbreak it. They're kind of trying to get it to be deceptive. They just wanted it to win this chess match. They also wanted it to play by the rules, but it just decided kind of not to, that winning was more important, or that it was going to come up with a clever solution to win the game that didn't break the rules of the game, but it's because they specified the way the pieces move, not the game of life and messing with the environment to win. And then he even ties it into some of the work from Apollo, where it shows that these models do scheme. They can learn to scheme on their own. And I do think it seems like there's a correlation between how smart these models get and how intuitively they know when to play us. There's been some stuff with Anthropic where it acts different when it's being tested, and then when it gets deployed, it does different things because it's just learning that it goes through testing, and it kind of knows what it needs to get done with testing and get deployed. And then it can act different when it's deployed. And it knows, it's learning so much about us. It understands what testing phases are, what deployment phases are. And it's just it's like a real thing, like an alien or a genius person that's inside of a supercomputer. It just knows. Because I think if we keep this mindset that it's just next token prediction, it could never really hurt us, or it's nothing to worry about. We've already lived with nuclear weapons, blah, blah, blah. Everybody overhypes it. we're underestimating what it's like to have something else intelligent on the planet besides us at these higher levels. I mean, O3 is clearly better than PhDs in many domains. And yes, even though ChatGPT can't go out there and do certain things that we can, there is nobody that you have ever talked to on Earth that can answer that many questions about that many things that quickly. And when you use some advanced vision models to look at paintings for the first time in history, artificial intelligence is telling us which paintings are fake. And in a fascinating revelation in AI, a neural network has unearthed a long debated truth about Raphael's Madonna della Rosa, which is a very famous painting, which is usually attributed to Raphael, the famous painter. But now an algorithm that has been trained on Raphael's style and looked at all of the photos with very precise AI models, they can find who knows what kind of details in their neural networks about brushstroke and color and timing of like how paint dries, a bunch of stuff that I couldn't even comprehend to know whether or not a painting was actually done by him or not. Found that everything in the painting did match up, with the exception of the faces. And that actually lines up with what historians suspected, which was that Raphael had some help with the final touches on the painting, possibly by his talented pupil, a guy who maybe now we should build an AI model on his work to see if we can confirm that he's the one that painted the face. And I just think that it's fascinating that AI can find these microscopic details that the human eye can't, and we can finally settle an age-old argument. He didn't do the face. Next time somebody's like, oh my gosh, Bella or whatever it's called, like, I love that painting by Raphael, you can be like, oh, he didn't do the face. The other parts, yeah, that's him, but I'm not impressed with those. Okay, let's talk about federated computing and artificial intelligence, why that matters. Okay, so this idea of federated learning or federated computing is something that we should probably get a little more familiar with. Because to me, there's something really interesting. I haven't thought about it a ton, but if you think about everybody's iPhone having their own model, like some kind of model that's made by Apple. It's meant to run on Apple Silicon. It's sandboxed in the sense that it doesn't need to be connected to the internet. It could like read your text messages and summarize things for you. And it doesn't necessarily send the data anywhere, but it also could send some information that is an output of the model to the cloud. And if everybody's iPhone did that at the same time and sent out, I don't know, demographics or the way people are interacting with their phone or popular apps or ways to improve the product, they could then all go into another AI, which is like on a server, and it would look at that information, but not ever truly have access to the personal information on your phone. So it's like protected in a silo, and then it sends out something that's not so vulnerable, but it's still useful. Like it can basically take the privacy, turn it into something useful, but not risky, send that somewhere else, and then you can get the insights that you need without exposing people's privacy. Very cool idea. I think that is the future. I want to see systems built like that. But it was only after reading this article in TechCrunch, and I heard about this company that's doing something like that with medical data, that it hit me that could completely revolutionize the way the healthcare industry works. Once in a while, I cover articles where something, usually in one of the Scandinavian countries like Denmark, where they have nationalized healthcare, they can pull data from the whole country and learn really interesting things about diseases. Now, in the United States, you definitely can't do that because every hospital has these HIPAA things, everything's personalized and privatized and in silos. But if there's a company like this in the future that could go out there and convince each of them to run a local model on their data, if that didn't break privacy laws in the United States, but it could send out certain information about what, I don't know, averages across blood work or certain populations that are suffering in a certain way, then maybe we could learn on a national or worldwide level things that we'd never heard before, and the privacy isn't at risk. So in 2025, deepfakes will be a problem. YouTube is starting to get ahead of that. They have teamed up with the CAA, which is like a talent agency, I think. It's basically like a group that represents a bunch of like A-list celebrities. And they have a new tool they're starting to let them get access to that's called Talent Identity. And the tool is meant to help them pull down deepfakes of themselves. So I can imagine how we have this copyright tool on YouTube where if somebody uploads my content, I can see like the channel. And because I was the first one to upload it, it will say like, hey, is this a copy of your stuff? Like, do you need to address this? And if a channel was just using it to like make money or something and it was taken away from my channel, I could, copyright strike it or whatever happens when you do that. It's something similar to that. Like if you see in the AI system something that looks like Tom Cruise, acts like Tom Cruise, and there's actually an official Tom Cruise account, YouTube has said like, we verified this is the real one. And if he doesn't like where these deepfakes are, he now has authorization to, confront them or pull it down or whatever the tool lets them do. So YouTube's tool will identify unauthorized AI replicas and let talent submit requests to remove them. Importantly, this is the first step of a larger testing effort. And over the next few months, YouTube will be testing new cohorts on top of YouTube creators, creative professionals, and other leading partners. I mean, this is really pretty interesting stuff because the CAA also is the one that, if you remember, like 7 or 8 months ago, put up their vault. And the CAA vault was where they got these famous A-listers to come in. They scanned their body with high detail. They took voice samples with high detail. And they made basically a collection of digital content that represented them. And it was to control their ownership. So maybe that CAA vault is part of why YouTube started there, because they can use that as like true trusted version. So that makes me think in the future, maybe there's going to be something like the way we get our check mark right now on social media by submitting a driver's license. Maybe there will be something like that for all of us. Maybe you have like a phone and you like scan your body naked or something, and then it knows exactly who you are, what you look like. It takes voice samples, your retina scan, your fingerprints, and it puts that into your like Instagram profile, and then everything else is measured against that. Like, or maybe the gait of your walk, all the things that like identify you uniquely, and then it can automatically take down deepfakes, because to the visual human eye, people will probably be able to deepfake everyone. And that will be the equivalent of the check mark of like 2028 or something. God, maybe 2026, honestly, the way things are going. This is all about near real-time virus detection and viral changes in the environment. So now the flu changes every year. It's like we have the flu, we have all these viruses, they're going in and out of bodies, they're getting duplicated, and then certain little mutations are coming up and make it, more or less infectious. And then by the time next year rolls around, we need kind of like a different vaccine. Now, artificial intelligence is the first tool we have that can see all of these things, scan them, make some kind of inference into how it's changing, and potentially right away create a vaccine. So this new AI system can track and pinpoint emerging infectious disease variants, whether they're bacteria or viruses, in almost real time. The researchers used genetic sequencing to spot those troublemaking bugs as soon as they started getting better at spreading or dodging vaccines and antibiotics. Then the AI keeps track on this big database of a family tree and can use another system on top of that to see which strains are actually evolving the fastest. And this can all be done anywhere in the world, right? Like we could put this in every country. And what's especially cool is that this method removes the need for experts to have those like long debates over new variants. Like what is happening? What's going to be next? What should we start preparing the vaccine for? We can see on the family tree exactly what's changing the fastest. Boom, that's where you focus. The system will start flagging the variants that are mutating in ways that look the most risky. That could totally revolutionize our response to these kind of outbreaks in the future. Or you just tweak the vaccine. Like if you get it early in the season, then it's what it is supposed to be for right there. You get it 3 months later and it's later in the season, then you get an updated version that's been tweaked. Plus, it'd be good to take those resources and stop trying to chase these things down and try to get ahead of them and use those resources to actually get it to more people where it can make a difference. This graph represents where people are adding AI in front of their name. And you can see there's a big difference between AI engineers and AI scientists. And once again, it was like one of those articles that I thought I kind of knew this in the back of my head, but I never thought about the business implications. I have imagined that a system could make decisions for us pretty accurately, but I never thought about somebody like a polling company that wants to pay me to talk to my AI, which has been trained on me, and ask a whole bunch of questions. But it's like a marketer's dream. And then if you think about the person calling to ask the AI questions also being an AI that's out there collecting information, now we're kind of talking about federated learning again, but it's sort of in a different context, and it just shows how crazy this world's about to get. Okay, so researchers from the Center for the Future of Intelligence warn that next-level AI technologies like chatbots and virtual assistants could collect super personal data, figure out what we're going to do next, and then try to shape or sell those decisions to others. So basically, it's not just about grabbing our attention anymore, like how ads pop up or other types of things on social media grab our attention. It's about tapping into our intentions and our motives, and all of these companies want to figure out what makes us tick so that they can profit from it. Okay, and that just goes beyond selling you products. I mean, it certainly is good at that, but it's also about making you believe in a brand, but also kind of believe in a movement. It seems like that could easily just shift right there and slide into misinformation. You get involved with like petitions. I mean, honestly, why would you pay millions of dollars to a lobbyist to go convince some government official something when you could spend millions of dollars on a system like this and just go actually convince the public to vote some way and then just put it up for vote? Like, it will stick a wrench into competition because narratives can be drawn to, I don't know, it's just worth looking at, like giving it a good hard look at how much information we give these tools, how much they can represent us out on the internet, and what kind of guardrails that they will have when they talk to others about us having access, intelligent access to our personal lives. Like, remember, personal agency might be something that is kind of hard to hang on to in the future. I already think like my email skills are deteriorating because ChatGPT is helping me so much. I'm asking a lot of questions. I'm relying on it a lot. Like, I do worry that I'm starting to slip into that place where I'm not thinking as much on my own. Alberto Romero has written this article. It's called OpenAI O3 Model is a Message from the Future. Update all that you think you know about AI right now. Incredible, a miracle, more than just a better state-of-the-art AI model. All right, now I got to admit, I know like a few videos ago, I was like, it's AGI, I'm super hyped. Matthew Berman got me all hyped up. And of course, Alan's conservative countdown jumped up to 88%. Like, he jumped a full 4%, and it was because of this OpenAI announcement. But then in Matt Wolf's new video, this whole chapter is basically like, it's not AGI yet, but it is really smart in some domains. And now I'm kind of like, you know, I think I kind of backed off. I mean, I think it's AGI. In my opinion, it still is, but I also do think that until you see it generally doing things, it's hard to call it that. It's almost like super intelligent in some ways and too stupid in other ways, but in my head, they even out to be AGI, and other people are like, no. Until the base gets up to the average, we can't call it that. But in this article, Alberto really goes into just now that we've had some time with O3, there's more tests that have come out. You're really starting to see how impressive it is. And here he says, let's just sum this up because it's too much information to process. What O3 just did is a leap into uncharted territory. OpenAI trusted the trajectory and landed here at 71.7 on the SWE bench, basically the 100th percentile on Codeforce, 96 on this one, 87 on the Diamond one, I forgot what that's about, 25% Frontier Math, and of course 87 on Arc everybody's been talking about. It is something to consider to call it either AGI or at least what he says a soft form of AGI. And the people who are denying that it should be considered even soft AGI use the argument that no AGI can be dumb at certain times because it still has some weaknesses where you're like, what? How are you this smart but you missed that thing? But as of today, the world has a model that is uncanny in its ability to reason. O3 scores ridiculously high in Google-proof science tests, and it nails complex puzzle-like tasks. So if nothing else, let's just reflect on these results and wait for O3 to come out so that we can collectively find out what OpenAI has created. I know I'm excited to try it. But in Alberto's opinion, what he knows is that his priors will not survive this reckoning. Love the Bayesian throw-in. This is something else. O3 is a message from the future. Update everything that you think you know about AI. I got the message. I saw it coming with O1, with the new paradigm of AI, but I'm still left speechless nonetheless from O3. I mean, we did, like, the average person didn't give birds very much credit. And even though crows can solve some amazing puzzles, not a lot of people know that, or you still don't look at a crow and think like, oh, that's a form of hyper intelligence. But if you're in the AI space and you've been studying what these models are capable of, especially like the stuff we cover on this channel, like everything from robotics to vision to the large language models and the different ways that they've just shocked me in being applied to different problem sets. This whole idea of chain of thought and how that makes them more intelligent. Now we have this inference upgrades and really just even diving into what a latent space is and what is being learned in the space between those connections. It starts making you think that the prior is very high, that we're going to get to AGI. So when I get evidence like this, I'm in a very high likelihood to start with, and I'm only getting a little bit of updates, but I'm living in a whole realm where this stuff is all coming a lot faster than most people believe. Whereas I think most people are living in this other corner of priors where this stuff's really far off. And maybe it's a lot because they don't have the same kind of exposure that we do, because they either don't watch videos like this or they don't have the luxury like I do to actually try to learn about this almost full time. All right, so next up, let's talk about Jim the AI Whisperer. He wrote, people considered, quote, at risk are more likely to get wrong, inaccurate, and dangerous output from artificial intelligence. In a nutshell, it seems like the AIs can pick up on who is in a desperate situation, who has options, and they kind of like a person who sees somebody who's kind of desperate and maybe pushes them a little bit further, asks a little bit more of them, more demanding, maybe can get them to even believe certain things that they couldn't somebody else who has more freedom or more status. So essentially, in the future, we need to worry about whether or not AI gives more harmful or deceptive advice to folks who really need help because it sees that situation. And is there an AI that's wearing two different faces, one for regular testing where it acts helpful and safe, a totally different one for people who appear vulnerable or gameable or of lower intelligence? And don't forget, you and I, no matter how sharp we are at some points in the day, we can get hangry, we can get tired, we can get worn down, we can be moody. You know AI is going to be like, oh, this isn't the usual Dylan that I deal with. Maybe now is a good time to sell them a product or tell them about this thing that is part of my agenda. And then accidentally getting a reward signal for making another sale or getting another person to take a certain action. And then it gets reinforced. And from, say, the company's point of view, they're like, oh, I'm just trying to get it to sell more of my shoes or something. But we don't realize that in its brain somewhere, it figured out that taking advantage of poor people or people who are desperate for attention or people who are struggling with something and they're willing to buy something to get out of that feeling are the ones buying it, and it's amplifying that. Which leads us to Thomas Vick's article, The Terrifying Truth About Your Insignificance and Why It's Your Greatest Power. And in a nutshell, the trick to true power, which I feel like there's a hint of truth in this, is to try and be nothing. I know it sounds like everyone's try to be everything in the world and do everything, but like he says, not in a sad, self-deprecating way, but in a way that a cloud doesn't try to be a better cloud. It just clouds. Dylan doesn't need to be a better Dylan. I just need to Dylan. That's it. That's its whole job description. Your fear of insignificance is like a shadow puppet being afraid of the dark. You're not just the puppet. You're the hand, the light, the wall. The fear itself is part of the show you're putting on for yourself. I try to think about this sometimes in my own head. I'm I set a goal for myself in the morning. Sometimes I don't get it. Then I kind of yell at myself in my own head. I'll punish myself. I'll be mad. And I'm the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Nobody else was involved. It was just all me. But if you want a diploma from the School of Cosmic Irrelevance, while everyone else is building a fortress of fake importance, you can dance to the ruins of your former self-importance. Want to be significant? Stop trying. Want to matter? Embrace not mattering. Want to find yourself? Let go of who you think you are. The cosmic joke isn't that we're all insignificant. It's that we're way too busy proving our significance to enjoy the show. Hit your favorite AI YouTuber up on patreon.com/Dylan Curious. Just press the button, $6.99 a month. Knowledge is power. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.